Welcome to Hardback Life. It's time for stories, sass, and strong opinions. Let's turn the page. I'm Cassie.
And I'm Becca. And we have a opportunity today to introduce our author interview for this episode. We're both very excited about it. Cassie actually has read her duology. I have not yet. It's on my TBR. I swear I'm going to get there. But I'm super excited. So we would love to introduce Jo.
Hey, thanks, Beck and Cassie, for having me on. I'm so pleased to be here. My name's Jo Riccioni. That's how you pronounce my surname, by the way. I'm the author of the epic fantasy duology, The Branded Season, which first book is called the Branded, the second book is The Rising. It's actually, those two books were my second and third book. My first book was a straight historical novel, but these two are epic fantasy. I've got a master's in medieval literature from Leeds University, so I studied a lot of epic fantasy and old Icelandic and old Arthurian legends when I was a lot younger. But then the sort of inspiration behind this book, just to give you a little bit of an elevator pitch, the way I pitch it when I'm at Comic Cons and Supernovas and so forth, it's like imagine The Handmaid's Tale set in a Game of Thrones world with a kind of Mad Max element. Nara and Osha, my twin sisters, are being brought up in this sort of elite compound where it's in a world of kind of post-apocalyptic world. And there's kind of medieval, the touchstones of medieval, and there's been a virus that has decimated the population, and only some women can have children. And once it's discovered who these women are, it's through their skin. So basically, those women who can't have children and the rest of the population have kind of brands on their skin as a result of the virus. But those who are pure skinned are known to be fertile, and those women are kind of corralled in this northern country, at least. They're corralled in this kind of, castle where they're bred and raised to become mothers. And of course, Nara, my main character, balks against that as her fate, and goes on the run with her sister. And it's about what happens after they leave this northern sort of icebound territory where they've been bred to think that, they're elite, but they don't have any other choice in life. So yeah, that's what the duology is about.
So we actually have a book club that we run, and this month our prompt is a book with the first letter of your name. And so I couldn't decide if I was going to go with Rebecca or Becca, but now I might have to put this book in as my rec because I didn't realize that it was like Handmaid's Tale, Game of Thrones-esque. And Handmaid's Tale was actually the book that I talked about on our banned book episode. So this is right up my alley.
Yeah.
And you're our first author spotlight, so that's super exciting, and I can't wait to get into this book. So before we do that, we typically start by talking about what we're currently reading, so we would love to hear what you're currently reading right now.
Okay. Well, I just finished a book that I can't recommend highly enough, and it's called Chain Gang All Stars, which is a fantasy book, but it's set in North America in a very near future where the prison system has set up a kind of gladiatorial competition for life sentence incarcerated peoples, and it's a Black Lives Matter book, and it is fantastic. It's written so well. It's kind of like literary fantasy, but it has so much to say, and it's so exciting. And anything gladiatorial for me. I've got a lot of sort of gladiator touchstones in the Branded, so Nara has to fight in a ring, and and that's what Chain Gang All Stars is about. The one I do read a lot of romance though as well, and I'm reading at the moment The Wedding People, which is it's like all over the place, isn't it? It's all over the internet. So yeah, they're the two books that.
What do you think of The Wedding People so far? Because I've read it, but Cassie has not.
I'm only just sort of 20% into it, so
okay.
There's a lot to go, but I love her style. I love her voice. She's so funny in a kind of dark way and very clever, and sort of dealing with really everyday things, but in a kind of new way, which I really love. The actual audiobook, I always listen to an audiobook as well as reading, and my audiobook is Bury My Bones in the Midnight. Oh, so good. Yeah, vampires are having a moment. They're coming back. And I watched Sinners the other night as well. So so vampires are my thing. And of course, one of my favorite authors, Australian, is Empire of the Damned, obviously. I've just got a mental blank. What's his name?
The only vampire realm I'm in is like Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay, actually, weirdly, I love vampires, but I haven't done Buffy. Obviously
I
my
haven't done
gateway was
vampire since
Twilight.
Twilight.
Yeah, yeah. I think,
Oh,
Twilight covered it so comprehensively that people daren't go back to it after a while, but they do come
Yeah,
in cycles, don't they? Vampires come in cycles, definitely.
yeah, we just had
I agree.
a interview with a customer at a pop-up bookstore. We did like a collab with Sweet Nothings Book Co. here locally, and we had a customer who was talking about a series that involved vampires, and I was talking on there about how I haven't really gotten into vampires in general, so it's something that I definitely want to creep my way back into. I've heard really good things about Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
beautifully written. Yeah, yeah, and I'm a big visual fan, so.
Okay. Well, Cassie, what are you reading right now? I don't even know what you're reading.
I'm still working on the Thursday Murder Club.
Mm.
Picked it up this week, and it's been such a busy week. I feel like I've barely really gotten into it. I like just got to the murder part of it. Taking my time with this one. Usually I read very quickly.
Cassie's normally done with a book in like 24 hours.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Super reader, super reader.
Yeah, she can read like 5 books to my one.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so envious. I'm envious of that.
Yeah, we have another friend who's a very fast reader as well, and so they always conspire against me because they just fly through books and they're like waiting for me to finish. I'll be like, "Oh, I'm only 20%," and they're like, "Come on now, it's taking you too long." And I feel like I'm a pretty fast reader, so they've really outdone me.
I mean, I just wish I could write as fast as people want to read these books,
Oh yeah.
What is a typical, I guess this is like kind of a sidebar, but what is a typical writing process like for you? Like how long does it really take you to write?
This is a really good question. I love answering questions about this because it's so varied, isn't it? The answers that you get from authors is going to be so varied. Look, I think my agents and publishers would love me to be a book a year writer, but I just don't want to be. I also have a job outside of writing,
Mm.
and that is mainly because I want a job outside of writing. I mean, I could write full time if I wanted to, but I really love the job that I do outside of writing, and I think it keeps me in touch with the real world, and it keeps me in touch with young people as well, and it also allows me a little bit of financial freedom, not to be. This is going to sound really arsey, but not to be dictated to by publishers and agents of I want the same book again, I want another one of these, I want this, and it's like I'm going to write my books. I'm not going to rely on them for income. I'm going to write the books I want to write. And if someone wants to publish it, then that's brilliant. But
Love that.
otherwise, it's, what, writing books it takes too long. For me, if I'm doing it in the time frame I want to, it's probably about 2 years
Okay.
Okay.
from start to when it's ready to be pitched out to publishers and sold. And, I kind of want to spend time with the book. I don't want it to be rushed off. I know a lot of authors end up having their books rushed out and they're like, oh, I wished I'd had a bit more time with that book, or, and readers don't get to hear this stuff. It's only when you're in the green room at the writers' events where you hear this stuff from writers, and you also see these writers and they're exhausted. They're literally exhausted from the kind of schedules that they're trying to keep to with their books. There are a few people who can do it really well and they manage it really well, and they've got a lot more books underneath their belt than I have. But yeah, I kind of made this decision to handle my writing in this way, where it's not. I mean, most people it can't be your main income anyway, unless you're a multi-million bestseller. But you can just about make a living out of it. If I put out a few more books a year, I'd be able to. I just don't want to do it in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to hear from an author's side that like you like to take your time, because I think we as readers get caught in the write it now. I want it now. We just had a conversation about the next book in the Fourth Wing series by Rebecca Yarros, and and even Sarah J. Maas, and they're multi-million-dollar, I feel like, bestsellers at this point, but we always have that debate of you hear those publishing dates like every year. Like I want one, because we're waiting 2 years for the next book in the Fourth Wing series to come out. So I feel like it's a little bit of a refresh for us as readers to hear, hey, we need some time. We're humans as well, and we can't be cracking books out every 6 months to a year.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at writing schedules and what people do day to day, To write for the same number of hours that people spend in an office doing office work, where you might be getting up, going to the water cooler, having a chat, having some online meetings. I've
Mhm.
worked in the corporate world, doing some pitches, whatever. If you sat down to write for the same number of hours, 8 hours, that's a ton of a lot of writing, and very, very bad for you physically to
Yeah.
sit in that chair writing. A lot of people do it, but it's not to say that they're happy doing that. I mean, most writers I know probably sort of like they're maxed out at about 5 hours of consistent writing. You need to sort of do a little bit of something different, get up,
Mhm.
around. So yeah, it is hard, and I do sympathize with people who get stalked online and saying, why is such and such at the how dare she? We're waiting for her next book.
I know. Well, poor Sarah J. Maas, because she just released the announcement for like the draft of Akatar 6, and people are like, the draft? Like, that's it? Where's the book, woman? To be
Yeah,
fair, it's been a hot minute since she published Silver
yeah.
Flame, so
Yeah, and there are children. People have children, and
yeah.
they are,
Yeah.
little human beings that need a lot of care as well as books.
And I appreciate they take their time with it as well. I want to feel the passion in the book, and I know like with the Branded, I definitely did, and I feel like with Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, that you can feel the time they put into it, the time you put into it.
Yeah, yeah. You have to have a connection with the book, and sometimes that connection, it starts out with the seed of an idea, but it develops into this whole other thing, and you have to sort of like corral it into this or massage it into this whole sort of atmosphere or aura that you're trying to create with the book, and that takes time. That doesn't happen overnight.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So that's a prompts a good question. So how did the Branded originally start, and then how did it change by the time you published it?
Yeah, that's a good question because it did change a lot. The seed of the idea started with a dream that I had. I had a dream about these
Oh.
women. And I think I had watched Mad Max, and I'd seen that scene where those women are all getting shoved into that vehicle and transported. But I'm, living in Australia, surrounded by the heat, and I'm from England, so I miss the snow a lot. I miss winter a lot. And was having this dream about, a lot of snow, a snowbound country, and instead of a vehicle, it was a sled, a big sort of like covered wagon on skis that was being pulled by these horses. And I remember waking up thinking, who are these women? Where are they being taken?
Wow.
What the hell is this dream about? And yeah, at the same time, so ideas are never from one place. They come from many different things that all feed together. At the
Hmm.
same time, I had a young teenage daughter who was questioning her sexuality and
Mm.
questioning a lot about, and she was a massive reader, a really, really intelligent girl. But we'd read books together, we'd co-read, and she'd read the book, and I was reading a lot of her young adult fiction. So I remember reading, we were reading The Hunger Games, we were reading Divergent, we were reading all those books at the
Yes.
time. And I remember having done a unit on feminist perspectives in literature at uni, and The Handmaid's Tale had recently made it onto that unit. And I remember thinking, wouldn't it be great if there was a Handmaid's Tale, but for slightly younger kids, to
Hmm.
talk about who they are, because they're just becoming aware of their body and the fact that society expects them to have kids and blah blah blah. And wouldn't it be great to sort of question that, but for a sort of slightly younger audience? And so it kind of, became embedded in this, joined together with this dream. And before I knew it, I was writing this. It was supposed to be about the commodification of the female body, about women being traded to be able to give birth. And then I spoke to when my agent read it, she said, I love this idea, but, and this was way before COVID, right? So this is how long this
Hmm.
book's
Okay.
been germinating. She said, I really like this idea. Firstly, though, I don't want it to be a duology because it will sell better to publishers if it's just a standalone. And secondly, how about you make it a little bit more than just female bodies, because it's too much like The Handmaid's Tale. So she said, what about a virus? I was like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Let's do a virus. And she said, how long will it take you to rewrite it? And I said, well, look, I'm going to need 6 months. So I'm working, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I went away, rewrote it, and COVID hit.
Ugh.
Mm.
So she was like, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to sell a book about a virus. Anyway, we did sell it, and then my publisher who picked it up said, this doesn't sound like one book. This sounds like two books. So then I had to go back and write it into two books.
And originally, because you said it originally was a standalone, because you're
Well, originally it was planned as a duology, possibly a trilogy, but then my publisher said,
your
because
publisher was the one that didn't want to do
sorry,
it.
not my publisher, my agent,
Oh,
because it's easier to sell a standalone when you don't have a name in fantasy yet. Because I hadn't ever published a fantasy book. And she said, if while they're still sort of testing the waters with you, it's more likely that they'll buy a standalone rather than a trilogy. Obviously, if you've got a name for yourself, publishers are more open, and because they want to know that the first book's going to sell. That if they invest in a duology or a trilogy and the first book doesn't sell, then they've still got they've still got other books to publish, and they don't trust you that you're going to sell. So yeah, that's
so it's almost like a safeguard on their end of like, if this doesn't do well, then we can pull out rather than investing in a duo. Silly though, like have faith in your writer.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to say that people who are writing trilogies and have never been published can't get those trilogies published. Obviously, if the first book, goes off, they definitely want those other books, and they probably want more, and they probably want prequels, and
Logistically, it makes sense, but I'm glad that you were able to do a duology because I think you covered so much, and I think it all fit. I can't imagine what would have been cut in order to put it into a standalone.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was going to be just a completely different book. So
yeah,
I'm really glad I got to go on that adventure, because they go in the second book, they go to a completely different part of the world.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to play with that and that touchstone. So the first book's the touchstone country is like Iceland, a kind of version of Iceland or Scandinavia, and the second book, the touchstone country, is more like Morocco. So they completely different place. And from my research visits, I'm known for doing it once I've written the book. So once I wrote The Rising, I then went to Morocco. And I've got
so you went after.
Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said about, for any writers listening, you don't have to be in the country that you're writing about. Sometimes it can be an interference. Actually, you get overstimulated, overload, and you don't know what bits to feed in and which bits to focus on. And yeah, sometimes being distant from a country can actually help. But I had actually been to really, really hot countries before, but I hadn't actually been to Morocco. So, yeah.
Had you been to Iceland before you wrote the Branded?
No, but
okay.
I've been to I've been to Scandinavian countries, and I've spent a lot of time in snow. So it's not like I had never seen snow before. I had.
Yeah.
But no, never to Iceland. Still haven't gone to Iceland. So yeah, the question, should you write what you know? Not necessarily. Not with setting. I mean, human nature, we all, that's what you're writing about, really. Setting is something you can research, for sure.
Yeah, that's such a good topic to, like, for you to make that comment of, like, should you write what you know, or should you step out of your comfort zone? Because I think there would probably be a lot of people out there that would say stick to what you know, versus not. But I kind of like the other perspective of you saying, like, you don't need to be there. You don't need to really know, like, just do it and see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I mean, not when you're first writing it. And it's also denying the realm of the imagination to say, write what you know. I mean, that's the joy of writing, is to go places you've never been, and to go into other people's skin. That's what writing is. That's what reading is. It's empathy. It's experiencing 1,000 lives when you only have one. And it's like, why would you deny people the ability to do that? But on the flip side of that is, when it's about to be published, make sure you've done your research, and that every place you're writing about, if it's a real place, then you've done your research and you sound like an expert. And you don't have to have been in that, not with Google Maps.
With technology
in there. You just need to get
That's so true.
Yeah.
Something I always find super fascinating, specifically when writing fantasy, is how do you balance character and story development with your world building? Because I feel like both are such big tasks and they need so much time.
I think if there's writers listening who are sort of like emerging writers, I think one of the temptations is to sort of sink loads of time in developing your world, especially because a lot of fantasy writers come from being D&D players, Dungeons and Dragons
Mm,
or gamers, and everything's about the world, everything's about the authenticity of the world. And I think a better way of looking at it is that your world should be the servant to your plot, not the other way around. So you need to
mm.
write the world into your story, not the story into your world.
Oh,
If that
I
makes
like that.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So you might have done loads of writing and research on creating this world, but do we really need to know wars that happened 100 years ago that then left such and such in the throne, in the who's going to inherit the throne in question? Do we really need to know how a particular metal is mined to create this type of plow?
Ah,
That's very fair.
Like I have read a lot of fiction that goes into that. I mean, and even if you read Lord of the Rings, there's pages that talk about, Tom Bombadil and trees, and it's like it doesn't stand the test of time. But most of it, so most of it.
Cassie and I sometimes get into a debate because I have a personal vendetta with the Harry Potter series because I always say that I don't need to know about the bristles on the broomsticks. Like I just feel like there's too much. And I read 5 out of this, I guess, 7 books. And so like I gave it a chance. Like I really did. But I couldn't. It was too much. And even with some of the bigger writers, like Cassie and I go head to head a lot on a lot of stuff, but
Yeah.
even with, I don't know if you've read all of SJM or if you've read some of hers, but I am in the middle of reading the Crescent City series, and I have qualms to pick with that series because it's just too much. It's too much world building. It's exactly like you said. Like I don't need to know about the wars. Sorry, apparently I can't talk. The wars that were fought 10,000s of years ago and how I got this one item from like. I'm on your same page, but Cassie's like, I want it. Like I'm good with
I
it.
like both. I think it depends on the book. Like I can appreciate some deep world building if I
Mm.
think it helps the story. But I can also appreciate when the world is built with your character. So
Yeah, I
I like
mean,
both.
I don't know whether you've read The Ministry of Time, which is Kellyanne Bradley, who has written this kind of time travel book. It's a romance, it's beautiful. But she's a great example in how to build a world without actually going into the technicalities of
Mm.
what it is people from the past being brought to the future, and they're
Mhm.
having to be readjusted to contemporary times. And she never really goes into the details of how that's being done. She doesn't go into the scientific details of how are they bringing these people from the past. That's not the issue. The issue here in the contemporary time frame and the
Mhm.
romance, and there's a little bit of politics going on with the ministry. But it's a classic example of you don't have to. You might know yourself as a writer, but you don't necessarily need to bog the reader down with that details.
Hey guys, so this is the part 1 of our episode with Jo. We had some technical difficulties with the second part, and so this was kind of cut off at an abrupt spot, but we can't wait for you to rejoin us next week, hopefully. We can't wait for you guys to join us next time. That doesn't make any sense. We can't wait for you guys to join us for part 2, where we dive even deeper into Jo's magic system and so much more.